Welcome to the Middle Ages, a podcast hosted by two women in midlife navigating the wild, liberating, and often hilarious realities of this chapter of life. With a mix of insight, irreverence, and real talk, they explore everything from changing bodies and shifting identities to evolving relationships, work, and purpose. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's a whole new beginning.
Hi.
Hello, 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 hello. How are you, my friend?
Another week has gone by.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's been a full week. Yeah, for me too.
Halfway through September already. Like, I don't even, I can't even. Do you
Mhm.
find that time has sped up? Like, time has sped up since I don't know when, since the last year.
Time speeds up when we're really busy. Right? So in the summer, like I'm not so busy. I play a lot, I rest a lot, and time goes nice and slow. And when I get back to work, time speeds up. Like when you said we're halfway through September, I just looked at the calendar and yet we're September 12th. And it does go by fast. Yeah.
We are going away on a vacation.
Yeah.
In a couple of weeks.
I can't believe it. That's so exciting.
So one of the things that I've always had as a goal, just the one thing I've always dreamed about was to go traveling one-on-one with my kids. Mm-hmm. And this will be my first trip with one of my kids. And we're going to go away for 2 weeks. We're going to go to Croatia and Greece. And I am so excited. Like, this is what we talked about when we talked about joy, right? This is the thing that is truly joy for me. And this will be the first time. And then I plan to take my son next year somewhere, and I want them to travel and I want them to see the world.
Yeah. And that's giving yourself time and space for you to access your joy. Because, we say it all the time, Steph works so much more than I do. And I feel like I've worked a lot the last couple of weeks, but it's nothing compared to you. So I feel so good. Yeah, I just feel so good hearing that you're taking this trip and you and your daughter are going and just having fun. Are you working at all on it?
No. I mean, I might check in now and then, but I have that privilege to be able to, right? So yeah, that's awesome. So
amazing.
We picked a topic this week, which is something that we talk about a lot. And we wanted to talk about love in the Middle Ages, but we have a twist.
We have a twist.
Yes. Yeah. Instead of talking about dating and intimacy, which I also think we should do an episode about, we are going to talk about the goal love that we want to focus on in this part of our lives. And I'm going to let you dive in and introduce what that kind of love is.
It's the greatest love affair of your life. I really want it to be the greatest love affair of your life. And it's the love affair that you have with yourself. And when we decided on this topic, I get so lit up because this is my life work and purpose and what I've worked on for myself and what I help others work with. It's this really deep remembrance. It's not even a finding it or finding something lost. It's like the remembrance that you are love. And then there's this beautiful quote that I say a lot from Rumi, the Sufi poet, that our task is not to seek for love, but to seek for all the barriers that have been placed against it. And then I usually add to it, and the barriers that were placed against it by others, because we were born pure, we were born radiant, we were born divine, we were born love. And then things start to change very quickly. And by the age of 2, we start taking on the parts of the world that are not love, and we start to make meaning about ourselves with that information. And it starts this entire journey of forgetting who we are, forgetting how we got here, and forgetting that we have an access point to be able to return to love.
So I'm the one who's going to throw in all the practical and all of the challenges here. So it's very lovely to think about loving yourself, but it is not a reality for most of us who have gotten to this stage in our lives, right? Yeah. And we have a commenter. We have a listener. Hi, thanks for joining.
Now I know how to find those comments. Thank you so much, Pankush. I hope I'm saying it correctly.
Frankish, that's right. So it's lovely to think about loving ourselves, but I think we have lost the ability to do that by the time we get to this age, unless we've been very conscious about it. But when you are so overwhelmed and overcome by life and the life things that we have to do, it feels like, sort of a nice to have, but I don't know how I get there anymore. I don't
Mm.
have time to even give myself that kind of time and that kind of attention. Plus, all the old conditioning about who's more important than you. Well, basically everybody. And we also take on everything that we brought on from childhood. So it is
Mhm.
a lovely thing to talk about, but I would like to dive into realistically, how do we get there? Because I don't think you just decide to love yourself, right? It's a very, very long process, and one that, after years and years of my own work, I would say that I'm really just starting. So, can we dive into the realities of loving yourself? Because when you get there, everything changes, doesn't it?
It does, for sure. I mean, life just becomes easier. So the research tells us that it's, usually around 50 plus, around the middle ages, that we can start to shift from the societal expectations of doing and taking care of everybody and be able to move into what they would call like self-assuredness and wisdom and autonomy and self-care and physical activity and all those things that help to bring a deeper self-understanding and confidence. Now, the reality is there are a lot of us that are still working. So I feel like the one thing we have to remember is love is something we can access. We don't have to wait for a time in the future to be able to get there. So that's a really critical piece is although the research is saying in the Middle Ages, that's when people can start to lean towards it. I think it's something we can access at any time in our lives, and we don't have to slow down, have the kids leave, be in relationship, be out of relationship, like all those things to be able to access it. So I'll just pause there, see if you have comments. And then, yeah, this is like such a juicy topic for me.
Yeah, and I think that part of what you were saying is that that's what sort of rings true for me, is that there's all this work to be done
Mhm.
before you can exclaim that, oh, I love myself. And part of it, if I'm being really honest, is that we need to get through all these stages of, first of all, understanding ourselves and
Mm,
being aware of ourselves and being clear on
mm,
who we are and what our identity is, and then accepting ourselves, right?
mm,
And accepting that who we are is perfectly great and
mm.
is enough and is what it is, rather than constantly wishing for it to be something else.
Yeah.
And then I think we start in a relationship with ourselves. Then we get to a place where we can start to work on shifting the thinking from I'm not enough and I'm never enough and I'm never, like, I've got so many things to change, to being like, I am awesome just how I am. I can
Mm,
always do more work and I can always have goals and improve myself. But right now, exactly in this moment, it's good enough. And I think those steps are the steps that sort of follow each other, rather than this really unreachable goal. If you're already way back here saying, oh, you got to love yourself. Okay, great. That doesn't resonate with me at that point in time, because I'm still got so far to go to just even understanding who I am, right?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think the personal development world has really messed a lot of people up by believing and letting people believe that it's just change your thoughts, change your life. That's not necessarily the reality, especially when it comes to self appreciation, self compassion, self love, forgiveness, all these pieces that really belong right here in the heart. It's not about changing our thoughts. That will never take us where we want to go. There's a deep embodiment experience that's needed about welcoming all parts of us and welcoming the parts of us that we judge, welcoming the judger that we are, welcoming the parts of us that are changing in the Middle Ages with more weight and all the complications that we'll have to talk about one day around health in the Middle Ages, and changing relationships and changing responsibilities and changing stresses. Part of our access to self love comes when we can recognize that all of those things are mirrors waiting to be loved as well. And when we just want to push them away and we just want to change the thought, change the narrative, we are going to get confronted again and again and again, because what we are resisting right there, first of all, is going to persist. But part of what our access to love and understanding and self-awareness and self-compassion is to love the resistance.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know that I'm there yet, but like I definitely understand that sort of higher level of trying to get to that. But I found that knowing, like, we don't even know ourselves yet
Mm-hmm.
because we've been so preoccupied with all the other things we have to be. And now we're in
Mm-hmm.
this we're getting this space, and we're getting this I think a lot of women especially get to this age and they're just like, I don't like, how can I go to love when I don't even have a sense of my own identity and who I am and what I value and what I like and what is there for me?
Yeah.
And I think, I started in the place of self-compassion and like Kristen Neff's work. And I had to start there because I found I was punishing myself so much. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
in that stage of punishing yourself, it's because you think that, well, it's for lots of different reasons, but I think for me, it was built up from, um, it's only honorable for you to be self-deprecating, right? It's only honorable. It's not honorable for you to even pay any attention to yourself or be a whole human being. That shift, I think, was really important. I think there's also, spending time with yourself and being okay. I think that's the biggest thing people have to get over and women have to get over in this age is that, not get over, but find a way through, is that you matter, right? You matter as a whole human being, and you can like things and you can have preferences and you can want things and you can, and that you should, right? Everybody else does. And you just you've got this narrative that you shouldn't, because you're not a good woman if you're not serving everyone else, right? So
Hustling and doing everything
that's
that needs to be done.
that's
Yeah.
right, right. And at some point in time, yes, we do need to develop the tools to be able to manage our thoughts and figure out, the goal is not to not have those thoughts, but the goal is to know what to do with them when they start to arise. And as you do this work throughout your life, they become less and less and less, right? But the goal, and I do think having the tools to be able to do that, but we can't leap into just have better thoughts, right? Because that's not real.
No, it's not real. And the reality is, we are so deeply in the echo of our conditioning. And the conditioning, like all the songs we listened to growing up, and the shows we saw, and the love stories and tales, and fake stuff that we heard, like all of that deeply conditioned us to outsource love. And as long as we're outsourcing love, we are not filling our own love tank. And I just want to pause there and let people just really receive that. As long as we're outsourcing love, we're not filling our love tank. And so
So
the
when you
work
say,
that becomes to insource, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say, if you can define what it means to outsource love.
Yeah, doing things for recognition, looking for someone to love you and take care of you. Even sometimes, like, our kids could be outsourcing love. Like people who, there was a couple of days when my son went away to school, and I'm finding myself all alone. That my heart felt very empty, very sad. I wasn't heartbroken, but I was really sad. And I had one day last Saturday where I did yoga in the morning, played pickleball in the morning, went for a walk with a friend in the afternoon, and then it was 3 o'clock and I was all alone and nobody else was coming into my house for the next 24 hours. And it hit me. It hit me right then. It's like, I think I'm lonely. Am I lonely? I don't really know if I'm lonely because I love being alone and having nothing to do. Like, it was just constant narrative that I was running. And I realized that I'm okay. Like, I love who I am. I love spending time with myself. I don't need to outsource. I don't need to fill this time with anybody. I don't need to call anybody. I don't need to see anybody else. That I'm really good where I am. So outsourcing is looking for the external rewards, validation, recognition, external love. And as long as we're doing that, we are truly avoiding filling our tanks with our inner capacity to love. And it's not even filling it, it's just remembering it's always full. We just go through life and we forget about it, and stresses and all the to-dos and the roles and the challenges and stuff just takes over. And then we have times, and the idea is that, hopefully as work slows down, as responsibilities change, maybe there's more time. Maybe there's more time to sit with all of that. So last Saturday, sat with my loneliness. I sat with it and I loved my loneliness. I didn't make it wrong. I didn't judge it. I just loved it. And it's a process. We'll talk about it a little bit in a little bit.
I do think there's a role for other people in your own journey to self-love. And I'm somebody who absolutely does not feel that they need another person to validate them and to, and I very intentionally spent a lot of time on my own so that I could get to that place where I'm totally fine on my own and I don't feel like I need somebody. But now that I'm in this journey of going from like, okay, I've accepted myself, I am great as I am, I am very happy to be on my own and what have you. And I'm finding that my experience being with someone who shows me, like, I don't think any love between two adults is ever unconditional, but it's about as close as I can get to someone who's just like, you, how you are, exactly, no changes. You are someone that I absolutely love. And I just do. I just do. And there's nothing that changes that. And I'm sure I could change it if I went and became an axe murderer or something like that. But it's now it's that sort of seeing that reflected back. And I don't know that I could have accepted that if I hadn't done the work that I'd done before. But there was definitely a role to play in someone who was safe for me being able to reflect that back and being able to see me as the whole person that I had wanted to be and become. And now I'm in this sort of next step of that journey. And I don't know that it's something I would absolutely need from someone else, but it certainly is changing the trajectory of kind of the path that I was already on.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is there's still a level of outsourcing. Like you were able to recognize and feel your wholeness because it was reflected back to you. And the kind of love that I'm talking about is not about giving love and it's not about receiving love. It's about recognizing that love is your true nature. And when you recognize that, your wholeness is always there. And then we take that and we bring that into relating, whatever the relating is, children, work, friends, lovers, whoever it might be, pets. We bring that in and we recognize that there's a sense of non-attachment, like love from others may come and go, but love for self is always there. Your wholeness is never incomplete. And somebody else that comes into your life, and this is what I'm hearing you say, Steph, is somebody else is coming in and reflecting that to you because you already recognize that as your truth.
Right.
If you didn't recognize it as your truth, you wouldn't be able to see it reflected back to you. Does that make sense?
That's right. And so that's why I make the distinction between, I needed somebody to come into my life in order to make me feel whole. Never. Like never.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Ladies listening, hear this. Never, ever, ever does someone else make you whole. Keep going.
No. And I don't think I would have allowed somebody in until I was in that place where I was like, great, I'm fine. I'm good. I feel peace. I feel quite accepting of who I am and I like myself. And the added bonus now is that I've got someone else who likes me just as much and reflects that back to me. And now it's like growing. It's like it's even bigger than it was before. And I think that that's the process, right? So while it's not like I was dependent on somebody to sort of make me feel whole, it's such a joy to see all the work that I've done sort of coming back and being reflected to me. And I do think a lot of people get to that place where they're afraid of being alone and that they feel like that validation can only come from someone else. And I think that's the work to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the fear of being alone, I think as we get into the Middle Ages and beyond, like that's a real fear. I actually think it's more common with men than it is with women. From the conversations that I've had, I think women often they're celebrating life and they're not even sure they want to be in relating at this point in their life because there's a sense of simplicity. Now there is, when we talk about embracing the parts of ourselves, like how do you do that? How do you move from not loving yourself to loving yourself? Do you have any suggestions?
From not loving yourself to loving yourself. I think it starts with having the intention to do so, right? If we don't understand that that's the place to start, is to get to know ourselves. That can be really confronting. It can take a long time. It can be, I think a lot of people are afraid to get to know
Mm.
themselves because they're worried they're not going to like what they see, or there's going to be this, this narrative around what I have to change. Right.
Mm.
And I think
That's a great segue. Keep going. You're giving me some segues here.
yeah. And that's very confronting, and I think also, even if you have the desire and the intention to do that work, you're tired, right?
Mm.
I've been fixing
Mm.
everyone else's problems for so
Mm.
long, and now I have to sit
Mm.
back and look at myself and realize all the places that I'm not good enough, right? Like, and I, the irony of that is that once you get into the work and you start doing the work, you realize that you are, and you're fine, and like you're just a whole and wonderful human being just as you are. But that, I think that's what's really confronting and stops people from doing this work, men and women, because it is so hard to look at yourself critically and see the places that there are gaps, and see the places that you don't know yourself and you can't answer the question around what you want, and in all the narrative we've been conditioned to believe.
Yeah. And this is what we call, it's a beautiful segue, the paradox of transformation.
Hmm.
The paradox of transformation. That which you are seeking lies in the parts of you that you want to push away or resist. And that push away and resistance can look like, trying extra hard to find the right person, overworking, drinking, drugs, over, all the addictions that we have in our lives, which we all do, by the way, at different points. And that keeps us from feeling the paradox of where the paradox of where our wholeness is lying, waiting to be touched, waiting to be kissed. So in order to feel freedom, I have to embrace stress. In order to feel worthiness, I have to embrace unworthiness. In order to feel joy, happiness, I have to feel grief. So there's these paradoxes, and we feel like, and this is all the pathway to love. This is the pathway to wholeness, because if we equate and create a synonym with love and wholeness, if we do not want to address those parts of ourselves, the parts of ourselves that we all carry, because we've all been conditioned and we've all had shit in our lives, the parts of ourselves that carry stress, that experience unworthiness, that experience grief, that experience disappointment, that experience fear of loneliness, all of those parts. If we don't embrace that, there is a whole half of our loop. I know people listening may not be able to see, but if you create a circle and you're complete, but then now collapse half of that circle because it's part of you that you don't want to see, touch, feel, remember, or love, then we are denying part of our love or wholeness.
Yep. I absolutely believe that. And I would also ask, how do we get started on this?
Love
Right?
this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do we
Yeah.
get started on this path? Because it feels very big and confronting. And where do you start?
It is so big and confronting. And I know when I started this journey, it was about 25 years ago, it was like there were parts of me that I just wanted to push away. I just wanted to be happy. Just look at the smile. I just want to be happy. I go to yoga. I feel good. When I don't feel good, there's something wrong. This is a conditioning as well. The parts of us that we don't want to see, feel, experience, we then judge as wrong. But what if there's nothing wrong? It's just a different part of our human experience. I can feel joy. I can feel grief. I don't remember if I said this last week. I can even feel my grief so deeply that I can feel good feeling bad when I take away the judgment of bad. So can I take you through a little process that I do with all my clients? And if those of you listening, I'd love for you to participate. We're going to do it for about 3 minutes. And the first, is that okay, Steph?
Yeah, go ahead. I would
Okay.
love for everybody to hear what you have to say.
So first I start with a story. So my business program is called Realign, and in the REALIGN is an acronym, and the R is to remember. And it's to remember who you are and to remember who you are to each other. With a story that in 1950, there was a clay-covered massive Buddha that was being transported in Bangkok. And it was being transported with a crane, and somehow it shifted, and the clay started to shift. It started to crack, and the monks who were moving it saw behind the clay some shimmering gold. And they thought that was really curious. So they got like a chisel and hammer and they started chiseling away. And as they did so, they revealed under that clay, in 1950 currency, a $500 million golden Buddha. And that golden Buddha now lies in the palace in Bangkok. I had a chance to see it in 2017. And in its presence, I could feel my golden essence, because that Buddha was me. That Buddha was me when I didn't know any different. And clay was put on me, or I put the clay on myself to protect, because life was really hard. Life was really uncomfortable. Life was really unsafe. So I put the clay on, or the clay got put on me. This happens to all of us. And the clay comes on from stress and comes on from fear around finances and survival states and all this stuff. And then when we can chisel away at the clay, what we recognize is that we all have that golden essence. Our hearts are all pure and gold. That is love. That's how we're born. Before somebody interfered with us, somebody being parents, society, school, music, television, Disney, whoever it happens to be, that love is who we are. So just to close off that story, the story behind it is that in the 1800s, there had been a Burmese invasion, and the monks recognized the golden essence of this Buddha and covered it in clay so that its golden essence would be hidden and not taken away. It's kind of like us in survival mode, right? We shut down and we hide. So now as we go into the next part of the acronym, what I want you to remember is you're a miracle just like me. And everybody is a miracle, even though they're doing things that are unfathomable on this planet, things that we cannot reconcile, things that are not okay ever on a human level. At some point, they have that golden essence. They have just so completely forgotten, like love and self-love is out the window. It's out the door. It's out of it's just not even present for them. So when we can recognize our golden essence, when we can turn to our own inner loving state, we give others permission to do so. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for just 2 minutes. I'm going to go through this really quickly. I want you to take a deep breath. If you're driving, don't close your eyes, but join us, please. Take a deep breath in and exhale, sigh. And the EAL in realign is to start to explore the parts of you that perhaps you have a habit of turning away from, rejecting, not liking. So for now, if you can let your attention wander to a place in your body. So this is embodiment work. This is not mind work. Turn into a place in your body that's feeling a little uncomfortable in any way, pain or uncomfort or discomfort. And then just notice what that part of your body is experiencing. What is the sensation? Sensation is the language of the body. Sensation could be tingly, piercing, achy, tight, cold, warm. There's lots of different terms for sensations. What comes up for you in that space? And that is the acknowledgement. REAL. E is explore, A is acknowledge. You give it language. And then the L is taking a breath, exhale, let it go. And then we do this one more time. So I'm going to have you go to another place in your body that's calling your attention. This is the explore, acknowledge what is the sensation, give it language. I'm aware that this part of me feels, and then take a breath and let it go. And the research shows us that within 90 seconds of letting a sensation move through the body by not holding onto it, by just taking a breath and letting it go, that it can shift our emotional states in 90 seconds without us having to do anything else. And it's a repeat. It's just put this on repeat. And then for time's sake, I'm just going to go to the next 3 acronyms. The next one is, so REALI, inspired, intuitive pop-up. If I say to you right now, what does love want you to know right now? And I sometimes with my clients repeat the word love to change it to heart or life or the universe or whatever. But what does love want you to know right now? And just allow some message to pop into your awareness. Coming from this place of letting go of any holding of or repulsion or rejection of parts of you. What does your love or wholeness want you to know right now? And the G is, what are you grateful for? And I don't start with gratitude because gratitude can be a spiritual bypass. So we've come into the body first. We feel, we move, what's held, We move it with grace. We receive the messages that are waiting to come into our awareness. And then what are you grateful for now? And then the N is, what do you need? What do you need? And as women, my goodness, we were taught not to be needy. Needy is toxic femininity. But what do you need? What do you need to remember this? And then take a deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. And then open your eyes and just reacclimatize yourself to your environment. And Steph, I'd love to ask you, what was your intuitive pop-up? What message did love want you to have today?
I think it was about gratitude, right? It was about being so in love with everything that is, I'm not at that place yet where I'm like, oh, I'm so in love with everything that's awful too, right? Like that is not, and I'm just trying to be realistic because I think
Yeah.
other people would be in that place as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And so that just being able to say, wow, my son has gotten into a place that is going to help him, right? Or wow, and I don't spend enough time being grateful and looking at the things that I've accomplished or that I have, that have happened to me, or that I'm just the way that I am, and thinking that's enough right now, right? Like that is totally enough. And wow, isn't it amazing, right? Because we're so wired to just, I'm wired to just be okay. Well,
good catch. Good catch, my friend. Yeah. So your intuitive pop-up was, I am grateful. Is that correct?
Yeah.
If you put it in a nice statement, what were you grateful for specifically? One thing?
I was just sitting here and thinking, I'm so grateful for this life that I've created and that I've been able to accomplish, because it is truly aligned with what's so important to me, like
Beautiful.
the most important things. And it's really easy to get stuck in, all the things that are hard or that you have to change, or the urgency. And those things can also be true, that they feel the way that they feel, but I am truly living a life that is what I always desired.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And what do you need to remember this?
I have recently put in a practice, even just this week, of trying to be thankful for not only what I have, but what I know is coming to me.
Yeah. And gratitude is one of the fastest ways, by the way, you know this, I'm sure, but gratitude is one of the fastest ways to bring closer to you that which you desire. And the idea is to have gratitude and feel it into existence as if it's already here.
Yeah, that's totally it. And I find that that's also does double duty, because that is very much how I make those things happen, right? Is by already believing that they have happened and that they're possible. And that's that possibility. It's not magic. It's not some other being that's making it happen. It's you're making it happen, and you have the power to do that. But we have to believe, and we have to, put ourselves in the place where we trust ourselves and we believe enough in ourselves. And that's that part of self-love, right? Is believing in ourselves and giving ourselves credit for being a capable human being, of looking after ourselves and having our best interests in mind, just like we would with our kids.
Yeah. And absolutely. And then I want to come back to like insourcing love. So it's not related to external accomplishments or things that we've done. It's about really knowing that even if everything was to disappear tomorrow from my life, I am still love. Love is who I am. It is my true nature. And it doesn't matter what I make or what I do or what I accomplish, but love is always here. If we want to bring it down to self-love, we have to make it an inside-out job, not an outside-in job, right?
Yeah. And until we get there, and even if you've reached acceptance, I think that that's a huge step forward, because I think we even struggle, well, everybody even struggles with that, is just the acceptance that everything is. It's also exhausting to constantly be wishing that we were something else, or that we were some other way. I think that's the big Middle Ages shift, is the move away from the wishing that something were different.
Yeah.
Boy,
Yeah.
does that life
The
become more
acceptance is very
joyful.
important. Say that again, please.
Life sure becomes more joyful when you're not
Mm.
constantly telling yourself that you need to be something different.
Yeah. And when you come from love, you don't put up with anything less than what you're offering yourself. Like this is some of the strategies, and I've put again a PDF together, some of the strategies around like you're much clearer, or let me personalize it. I am very clear with my boundaries. And I know you are as well, Steph. It's like, can I just say fuck it for the rest of the day and just do what brings me joy, or just rest? Yes, you can. Yes, you can, because you are a free being. This is a very spiritual concept. We are free beings seeking boundaries, not bound beings seeking freedom. So if we are free beings seeking boundaries, what is the boundary that allows you to experience this moment? Let's replace joy with love, this moment with love, and then this moment with love, and then this moment with love. And then before you know it, it's a practice that love is what ripples out of you into the world, no matter who and what your experience of life is.
Yeah. So I want everybody to hear that there is a very spiritual way of looking at this, but there's also just a really like pragmatic and accessible way as well. If you don't want to go that far, or you're just not, inclined to go that far, that the acceptance and the liking of yourself
Mm-hmm.
is enough, right? We don't necessarily need to get into an existential frame of mind in order to love yourself. I think that that even if you just get to the acceptance and the liking of yourself, and that calm, peaceful place where you're not plagued by this feeling that you have to change and be something else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That in a very practical sense is like just as good, right? Like it's if that's where we can get to today, it's a huge step forward.
Yeah. And I don't think we're talking about different things. I actually think we're talking
No?
about the same thing. I think it's the same
Right.
thing. And the access points are actually the same. They really are.
Right.
There's a sense
I'm
of
just putting it in
softening
language
and
that so
yeah,
we can cover the spectrum of the language that really resonates with all sorts of different people, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I know
Yeah.
for me, like when my last husband walked out, and I found myself deeply in my anxious attachment response. We can maybe do a session on attachment theory in another time. Anxious attachment, like, don't go, I'll change, I'll do whatever you need, whatever you want. And I had been on this love journey of myself for 25 years. And I would catch myself saying, no, that is not a self love gesture. Begging someone else to love me is not loving myself. I I know that I can live freely when I'm not afraid of something changing. I'm loving freely. When I'm not afraid of something changing, anything else is called grasping, and grasping always comes from a place of fear. And then the work isn't how do I manipulate, change, and control the world, or life, this person, whatever, but how can I love that part of myself that is so deeply scared of being alone that she's grasping. And that
Mm.
became my work. So I flip it onto, oh my gosh, here's this anxious little girl chasing after this man who doesn't want anything to do with her, to, oh man, this poor little girl needs love. And how can I love that part of her that is so wounded? Because that was one of my core wounds. How do I love my core wound and call it home? Like bring it into if we talk about like the circle being a dining room table, like bring in all parts of myself, even the ones where I messed up like big time in my life and I don't want to even like recognize it, the shadows, the disowned parts of myself, bring them in. That's how we open to love.
That's the self-compassion piece, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
for those of you who
Mm-hmm.
want to do studying, and you can go look up Kristen Neff and some of the stuff that she's doing. And I'm sure there's lots of other folks out there who have done good reading or good writing around this, but that I found that was the place to start, was that compassion.
Yeah.
So now if you joined in today and started listening and you were like, wait, I wanted to hear about dating and dating horror stories. Oh, we've got those. But the most important thing to take away today is that before that becomes a focus, for that to be successful, we have to get to this Whitney Houston greatest love of all, which is about being able to accept and, fall in love with yourself.
Yeah.
And then is the right time to go
Yeah.
out and start attempting dating. And at that point in time, we'll have another conversation.
I absolutely think so. Who's the singer of Piece by Piece? Kelly Clarkson?
Kelly Clarkson, yeah.
Kelly Clarkson has this song Piece by Piece, and I remember hearing it, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. I was at a cottage with some friends, and I was like, oh, I love that song. It's about, what I heard in that song was a stepfather to a daughter, which is the life I was living, my ex-husband to my daughter as a stepfather. And oh, how wonderful. He's picking her up. He's picking up the pieces. He's taking care of her. And after she divorced from her husband, who sadly recently just passed away, after she divorced from her husband, she rewrote the song. And I don't think it's been released as a recorded song, but there's a YouTube video of it. And I heard it and it just brought me tingles. And it was like, piece by piece, I picked myself up. Piece by piece, I sourced love from inside. And it's such a beautiful remake. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. Kelly Clarkson's remake of Piece by Piece is beautiful. And I love that Whitney Houston song as well. But there's so many others that, I'm so horrified of the languaging that and the imprints that they created about outsourcing love. And I'd like to think that we're changing that narrative in our world, but I don't think it's happening as fast as it needs to.
Okay. That's funny. That song, I got to go listen to it again, because when I heard it, to me, it was about her husband was giving her what she hadn't gotten from her father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a pieces of it where I heard husband, then I also heard stepfather to child. That's how I heard it the first time I heard it. But yes, you're absolutely right. I think that was her intention. And then when he left, she did a revision of it, and it's a rewrite. And it's so beautiful. And I get chills when I listen to it. Okay. Do we want to talk about a few more strategies, like the little embodiment practice that I did for a few minutes there? That's something that I do every day, and I do it every day with my clients, and I record it, and they do it every day, because I recognize that however old you are, that's how many years of conditioning that you have to move through to remove the clay to remember your golden essence. And there's a 1 in 400 billion chances that any one of us would be here, and you made the cut, and I made the cut, and we all made the cut just as we are. And we don't have to be different to recognize our self-love, our worthiness, and our belonging here on this planet.
From a practical perspective, I would say, one of the places to start too would be, and this isn't just about, self-love, but it's also just this pattern interrupt, right? The very first step is to start recognizing when the things you're thinking are not in the service of being someone who loves themselves, or someone who accepts themselves, or someone who's compassionate towards themselves. So, that's the very first step you take, it's to be able to recognize when that thinking is starting to be dominant. And once you start, it's amazing how often you see it, right? How often that judgment or that narrative is there, but it's a very intentional thing. It's like going to the gym. It's like, keeping it. And at this point in time, I don't think you even need to have a different thought. I think it's just the recognition to start with. And then eventually maybe we start shifting those thoughts, and we start saying, oh, I know what that is. Actually, what I truly believe, I know where that's coming from. It's trying to protect me. It's trying to keep me safe, whatever. It's old conditioning. What I really want to shift that to is this. And then we start practicing that. And so, like, baby steps. I think the number one thing that gets people stuck is that they try to have this huge transformation all at once. But this is years and years and years of conditioning that we need to start refocusing, right?
And remember the paradox of transformation. I think that's a really important concept, the paradox of transformation. So that which is popping up and that you recognize, then it's not about even necessarily shifting it or pushing it away, but it's about pulling it closer and saying, wow, that's like last Saturday, like I could have easily distracted from my loneliness. And I didn't. I said, wow, I was feeling really lonely. And I sat there. I just sat there in my loneliness. Now I have the tools to come out of it, so I don't go into a deep dive depression, which is the risk if, for anybody that doesn't really know how to pulsate these little moments. I can remember even before I moved to BC, when I was in my deep process of loving my grief. And grief is like a temple energy. It's water, it's flow, it's beautiful. But I did not like it. But I made myself fall in love with it. And that's the paradox of transformation. My grief is a part of me that just came to join me at the table. And on the other side of grief is deep, deep, nourishing love. So catch the thoughts, but instead of trying to do something with them, maybe just take a moment and sit with the sensation, with the body sensation, because the thoughts always trigger a body sensation, always. We have to pay attention. Like if you're not paying attention to your body or disembodied, one's not going to notice it. But that's a really important one. And I think self-acceptance, you mentioned many times today, and I think that's such an important one. Like, oh man, let's get rid of perfectionism. Like we've been there, done that. I'm never going to be 20 again. I didn't even like myself when I was 20. So it's like, can you just accept this point of life and be kind to yourself?
Kindness, right? Like that's the other flip is the narrative I think a lot of people have is we should be self-deprecating, right? We should be self-deprecating. That's conditional. That's societal. That's cultural.
That's more clay.
Yeah. We need to be self-deprecating. We need to be hard on ourselves because that makes us, a more acceptable woman, right? It's bullshit, right? It's bullshit that we've carried with us from I think we're really in this transitional generation right now. We're straddling, a generation of women who were, who were rewarded for staying small, right? And for not recognizing their own value. And all of this learned behavior does come from what we've inherited there. And so we're really trying to straddle two generations. And I think everybody's in that position at some point in time. And so that catching that self-deprecation and catching that feeling like I'm worth more than that. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that you mentioned already is time and space for yourself. Like this trip that you're taking, you don't know how happy I am for you that you're taking this trip. And then you're even doing, a night out tomorrow night like that. That is so important to take time and space for ourselves, especially if you have the opportunity now with fewer demands potentially on your time. Go and play. Do something that you've never done before, that you've always wanted to do, whatever that is. Go travel by yourself. I love traveling alone, by the way. I love not having to be accountable to anybody else. So time and space for ourselves. And then we also talked briefly about boundaries. And this is where I think when we talk about like the Gen Z coming up, they are really good with boundaries. This is like boundaries is just like a regular conversation now. And it wasn't when we were growing up. Like I didn't even know that saying no was an option. I mean, just won't get into some of the things that happened to me because I didn't know that I had a voice to say no. So young people today, I feel, are much better with their boundaries.
And we're teaching them that, right? I think that's been intentional teaching. They didn't just necessarily, inherit that, but that's we're changing narratives slowly but surely, and it won't be the be all end all. Our kids will look at the way that we operated and they're like, oh, don't ever, whatever it is, that's natural. And I think that that's just evolution, but I'm just glad that it's moving in a positive direction for the girls and women and the boys, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Boys and girls. And I think another one, there's 10 different topics on the list, or 10 different strategies. But I think one of them that's really important to address is forgiveness and self-forgiveness. And forgiveness isn't something we do for other people. Forgiveness is what we do for ourselves. It's about giving ourselves grace and freeing the shackles of our own heart. And so forgiving ourselves, we weren't perfect. We are not meant to be perfect. We all have clay. Anybody who says they don't probably has more clay than the other person. And can we let go of regrets, let go of guilt, let go of old stories? I had someone recently ask me if I had any regrets in my life, and completely clearly I said no, because I have really done the work to forgive myself for anything that I didn't do perfectly in the moment, because I recognize that everyone does the best they can given their model of reality of the world, the capacity, and their resources. And I did too. So there was a forgiveness that had to come through there. And I think that's a big piece towards self-love, because forgiveness will always lack of forgiveness, regret, and self, like putting oneself down and self-judgment, that will always keep the heart closed.
And so, as I do, let me put a little bit of a pragmatic spin on that too, is, because I would have been that person that heard that a few years ago and go, come on, Diana, like, that's just unrealistic. And that's woo woo. And that's like, oh, good for you that you got there. But I'll say that what I got caught up in was the things that I regret are lessons to me, and I have to continue regretting them, or I'm not going to honor the harm I did to somebody or whatever. But what I have come to realize is that, yeah, I do get to forgive myself for the things that I don't love, that the experiences that I had and the choices that I made. I get to forgive myself because I know where it came from, but also that doesn't mean that I let go of the lesson, right? That doesn't mean that I can't forgive myself and understand what I learned from that experience and understand how I would change my behavior in the future, or, shift the thinking in the future, because I learned something and I got some experience from it, and I'm building on that as a human being. Right. So I think like that's the shift that really made sense for me as someone who, couldn't just accept that, oh yes, I'm never gonna, like, I don't, and that's not how it is, and I know that's not how it is, but I think people hear that sometimes and they kind of go, well, that's unrealistic, and I'm letting myself off the hook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And remembering that, we always did the best in the moment. And sometimes that was not good enough. I mean, that happens a lot on this planet. Sometimes it's not good enough. And then at some point we just have to like sigh, let it go. Yeah.
I read somewhere once, it was some famous person who said this, but that like regret and guilt and shame, they are such a waste of energy, right? Like we're just trying to punish ourselves because we think somehow we deserve that, but we don't. We don't deserve to constantly, and that actually doesn't help you, make changes in the future. That just keeps you anchored in an old place.
Yeah.
You can take the learning and you can use that learning to make yourself, I wouldn't say a better person, but to shift what you might do in the future. But
it's all learning.
Putting all that energy into regret, into shame, into guilt, it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve the people that were harmed by you, if that's what happened. It doesn't change anything that happened. So let's take that energy and move it towards doing something in a better way in the future, or in a different way in the future, or repairing, right?
Yeah. And regret, guilt, embarrassment, like those are, I did something wrong. Shame is much deeper. Shame is, I am something wrong. And so that's maybe a different conversation, because as long as shame is present, that is something that has to be brought forward and cast with a light of love to be able to heal it, because shame is usually or often something else, something external that happened, not necessarily always something one did. And if shame is the response of what someone did, like if I feel shame because I did something, that's an old shame that was triggered. So that's a whole other journey, and probably a lot of therapy too, to be able to really be able to sit with the shame into healing. And that is possible. And all this stuff, my friends, all this stuff is a process. It's a journey. It's a commitment. It's a practice. It's a practice again and again and again, so that we can learn not to love ourselves into wholeness, but to love ourselves into the remembrance that wholeness is our natural state.
Yeah, I like that. We're at the top of the hour.
Mm-hmm.
I know we have lots more to say about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we talking about next week?
To be determined.
Okay.
To be determined, because I took some notes just now on some of the things today that I feel would be a good continuation. People listening, we come up with a general idea. And then we just take tangents from there, and we share about our experiences, and we hope that there's some meaning that lands with you, and that that there's some little nuggets that rest with you and that can help you to navigate these middle ages with more grace, more beauty, and because of today's topic, with more love.
So on my last note, I will celebrate something that I did this week for that I think is a manifestation of the love for myself. And I don't think it's a mistake that it took so long to happen. But I
Before
got my first
Yay! Steph went to the dark side. She went to a tattoo artist. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
So these are the profiles of my kids in the stem, and then tiger lilies, which represent resilience and wealth and confidence and love and
I love it.
So it was just
love it.
Now I need to get like 5 more.
I know, it's addictive. So my last one is a yin yang sun. But before that, when my son got his first tattoo, I joined him and I got an open heart. So it's a heart, for those of you that can't see, that's open at the bottom, because it's how I want to choose to live my life. And and with that, I think it's time for us to sign off. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for being here with us, and for the hearts we got from Tasha and from Pankush. That is so wonderful that you gave us. You were here with us and you shared your love with us as well. Yeah. All right. We'll see you next week. Let us know if there's anything you'd love for us to talk about or to address. God knows we can talk forever. So thanks for being with us. See you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Middle Ages. If you loved this episode, follow the show, leave a review, and share it with someone who's rewriting the rules of midlife too. Because around here, we believe midlife isn't the end of anything. It's the start of everything. See you next time.